All right, we're back. Part 2, America's Voice Now. We're speaking with Vince Finelli. Vince runs a radio program out of Springfield. He's syndicated at a number of stations across the country, and has a website, USA Prepares. Is that .com?
Yes, usaprepares.com. USAPREPARES.com.
Gotcha. And before we get into your discussion that you wanted to tell me about before the break, that was an excellent event this weekend, and I want to talk before we wrap up this morning about what transpired between us as hosts, at least what we can talk about publicly. So, but anyway, go ahead. You were going to make a point before the break, and I apologize. So
is your middle name Passion?
Yes, it's also my first and last name. Actually, my first name is Passion, and my last name is Passionat.
Well, Michael, I'll tell you, we've had 6 events, and 2 of them were the Get Prepared Expo, and it's literally the largest preparedness expo in the country. And we've had 2 of them at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. And I decided early on that I would not allow the concession stand that they operate to sell hot dogs and Coke. Hot dogs at $3.50, $3.75, and Coke at $2.50 for a small cup and $3.50 for a large cup.
Right.
Because I think it's extreme, and it's
out of a fountain. That's about a 10,000% markup. But go ahead.
It is. I priced it. The large Coke is 26 cents.
Yeah.
And they sell it for $3.50. Anyway, I wouldn't allow them to do it, so I paid them. I paid them not to show up, because I felt that if someone paid $8 to come into our expo and go to 50, 60 seminars, they would say, "Wait a minute, those guys gouged me. Those guys that are running this expo gouged me." But it's not me. When you go to a concession stand inside one of these city or county expo centers, it's the city that operates that.
Sure.
They have an exclusive arrangement with Coke.
Right.
So that, yeah. So
that's
Coke
their deal, not yours.
Right.
I get it.
And so I paid them not to show up, and then we sold hot dogs for $1.50 and $2, depending on the date of the event. But here's the point. After the event, the city was so mad at me, because they said, "Do you know how much money we lost? You ran a concession stand." I said, "Yeah, well, that was the arrangement. Right. I paid you not to show up." "Yeah, but we lose a lot of money when you do." "Well, do you know how much they charge for a hot dog at a ball game?" And I go, "No, how much do you charge for a hot dog at a ball game? Because I don't go to them. I don't have money."
It's like $5 for a hot dog at a ball game. You want a slice of pizza? It's like $7 for a piece of pizza that you could go over there to Pan Pizza and buy for the whole pizza for $5.
Yeah, and by the way, a lot of their hot dogs I would call fish bait. I mean, I've got them in my freezer if I ever want to go fishing. But we're not going to eat them. We've got them marked fish bait.
Not for human consumption. I hear you.
So these only the county and city governments have enough money to put these buildings together. So hot dogs for revenue, you are absolutely right. They hate me because I would not allow them to sell their hot dogs.
Yeah, but the problem is that they're building these Colosseums with taxpayer money.
Right.
And, we're on the hook for them. These things cost $100 or $200 million. The taxpayers are on the hook for it. You got a ball team, whatever it is, football, baseball, basketball, it doesn't even matter what it is, that plays, 6, 8 home games a year. These things are not self-sustaining. They're not revenue neutral. They're a revenue drain, and they're a resource on the community. And their real goal is not necessarily to provide entertainment or have a sports team. I don't need a sports team to represent me. I don't need a mascot for our state. Thank you very much. What I'd like to see is liberty. Why don't you try focusing on that? Why don't you make our mascot the American flag? Okay? Why don't you make our mascot the state or the federal constitution? Mm-hmm. But the simple truth is that what those things are is a direct and focused intent to keep male testosterone in check, because they know that if you don't keep people constantly distracted with fashion, technology, games, game shows, television, sports, that testosterone will turn around and work against them, because they'll revolt. So the game plan is Give them anything to keep them distracted so that they don't see as we're slowly pulling the hood over their head and then, swinging the noose over them. I mean, it's as simple as that. And we have completely lost sight of what's going on. I mean, this whole idea of, I got to have the latest and greatest iPhone or the new iPad or this new gadget or a new watch or a new Lexus or whatever the latest BMW is out. Let me tell you something. That is nothing more. I mean, we're propping up the same system that's trying to kill us by our consumerism. And that's part of all of this indoctrination. That's why, when you sit in front of the idiot box, you are numbed and being brainwashed. It's a simple fact. You don't have to look far for that. You don't have to have a psychology degree to recognize it. All you've got to do is look at it. Shut off the sound one time and watch a show for 20 minutes, and you will be utterly stunned at what you learn. I'm telling you, I challenge people to do that. Next time you're watching TV, shut off the sound and just watch the action in silence and watch what happens and listen to what your mind tells you. It's utterly amazing.
Not only that, if you were to give someone a test and you were to say, I'll tell you what, after they've watched one of these programs, say, let's turn TV off and tell me what the plot was.
Right.
They can't do it.
Right. They can't.
They can't do it. And
there is no plot. There is no plot. Right. There's just indoctrination.
We were at Ziggy's. We have a meetup every Monday night with our listeners at Ziggy's in Springfield. It's a restaurant. We take over the restaurant. They have about 7 TVs, and the TVs are behind a glass wall. And invariably, one of our instructors will just get up and say, "That's it, that's it. I can't stand it." And she'll go up to the owner and say, "Turn those TVs off." Because if you watch, you'll see that, while we're having a seminar going on across the glass wall, there's some TVs running. They're a distraction.
Right.
And they've got TVs everywhere at Ziggy's.
And the people who are supposed to be concentrating on what you're talking about, their eyes are constantly drawn to that wall, are they not?
They are, because there are scantily clad women bending over each way you could imagine.
Right.
And it's all for effect. And if you look at, and
it's indoctrination porn.
Yeah, I timed the scenes. Scenes on a television series are about 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds long. That's it. A long scene is 4 seconds. So
it's subliminal, this chaotic subliminal advertising, and everything is related to that. Even the hour-long program you're watching, not just the commercials.
Right, and if you watch something like the History Channel, they'll tell you, or one of these supposed semi-science programs, they'll tell you what they're going to tell you, then they'll go to a commercial. Then they'll come back from the commercial. They're going to tell you again what they're going to tell you. They'll tell you a little bit, then they'll go to a commercial. Then they'll come back and tell you what they told you.
That they were going to tell you. That they were going to tell you. That they were going to tell you. And so just keep you hooked like a fish.
Yeah, but if you add up as a percentage of what was new material, it's probably 15% of that hour at the most.
Right.
The rest is commercials, and the rest is, here's what we're going to tell you, here's what we told you, over and over and over again.
Yep.
Let's talk for a minute, if you'd like, about the seminar that you did at the Get Prepared Expo. I thought that was the coolest thing, especially when we had 5 talk show hosts and 1 microphone.
Yeah, which is always a challenge, isn't it? But actually, it went fairly well. I mean, everybody had an opportunity to say their piece and contribute to the discussion. And the discussion was, if you want to be a radio host, here's some of the basics that you need to know. And a lot of it, in the early part of it was, hey, listen, this is not all peaches and cream, and here's what you need to know about it. One, this is not, there's no money in this, so let's not even go there. 2, you got to do a lot of preparation, and if you think this is going to be a 1 hour a day show because that's what you think you're on the air for, you forgot about the 3 or 4 hours that you need to do every day to prep for it, and the hour or 2 afterwards to make sure that you do your follow-ups, and that you're most likely going to end up paying out of your pocket, and it's a full-time job to do a 1 or 2 hour show a day. And most people don't realize that, and there's no money in it. I mean, we all of us end up paying out of our pockets to do this stuff. I mean, it costs me money to run my show every month. It costs you money. You know, people think, oh, you're on the radio, man, you must be making big bucks. Let me tell you something. That reminds me of the guy who, you know, works for a corporation and says, man, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to be my own boss. And I look at him and I say, you know, the only people who ever say that are people who have never run a business before. Because suddenly you find that you work weekends, you work 12, 14, 16, 18-hour days. There's no resources. There's nobody to turn around and look for and say, hey, I'm a little short of cash this week. Can I add something to the budget? None of that. You're responsible for 100% of everything. And so it's that same, you know, misconception. And yet the rewards are outstanding if you have, you know, what it takes and you're willing to put the sacrifice down to do it, including, you know, all of the research. You have to be a subject matter expert on whatever your topic is going to be. And, you know, there's a lot of topics out there, but, you know, a lot of folks, you know, think that they can just do a show. Well, it takes a little bit more than that. You know, you have to make sure that, and some people specialize in stuff, you know, like you've got guys out there who specialize in, you know, money or finance, or somebody who specializes in banking, or, you know, somebody who specializes in a specific area or topic. And, you know, that's fine. But most of those shows are not daily shows. They're once a week.
Yeah, like the home improvement type shows. You couldn't stand 5 days a week of that.
Right.
Because how many times can you...
Unless you got the budget of Sears and Bob Villa, and then, you know, you can go out there and videotape a different show every day. But the truth of the matter is that, you know, most radio doesn't have the capability for that. Most people don't. There's not enough to talk about. I mean, how many times can you talk about smacking a nail on the head?
Well, you're absolutely right.
You know.
You're right. So that's why we do what we do. You do what you do, and Sam Bushman does what he does. And but the interesting thing about this is that you are on the air at the same time as Sam Bushman and I and
right.
all of us. You would think that if we were a traditional business, we would be at each other's throats competitively. But that is absolutely not the case.
Well, and I'll tell you why. Because when we were at that last meeting where we were at the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association event that was up in St. Charles, you know, you and I were sitting in that class where they were doing a program, and I raised my hand and I said, here's my question to you, when they opened the floor up for questions. Why aren't you guys, as established radio hosts, helping us guys who aren't really, you know, syndicated or out there? Why aren't you helping us and mentoring us and turning us on to your contacts in the syndication world and saying, here's what you guys, you know, give us a leg up? I mean, I talked to a guy named Tim Alpers one time. He used to work for Glenn Beck, and I asked him, I said, why doesn't Glenn Beck take $20 million and just start off a brand new syndication network that would help all of these up-and-coming hosts who are really telling the truth out there and help them get their start? He says he's not interested in it. He's more interested in, you know, pursuing the money. I said, well, I mean, when is $40 million not enough? He said, I don't know. I've asked him the same question, and he can't give me an answer.
Hold on to that thought. Hold on to that thought. Because for Expo number 1, we just had Expo number 6 last weekend. Expo number 1, I called Glenn Beck's people to get him to find out what it would take to have him come to our Expo. I thought, yeah, here's a guy who really wants to save America, right? They said, well, you know, Glenn Beck doesn't charge anything for his appearances. I thought, well, that's a good sign, you know. And then they said, what he wants you to do is donate to his charity. I said, okay. And I'm thinking, you know.
How many zeros is that with?
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you the whole thing. And I thought, okay, so, you know, we make a contribution. If we're successful, we contribute. And if we don't, well, we don't, because, you know, contribute to his charity. Well, there's a fixed amount that you contribute. And it was $125,000.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, that's for starters. Now, you got to get them there. Now, you can't just, you know, give them a business class or an economy class ticket and put them on a plane, you know,
right.
and have a cab pick them up or rent a car for him. No. He has to have a private jet with 2 engines and 2 pilots. That's another $25,000.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what I was told.
Plus his security team and all the rest. Yeah.
Yeah, all that.
I mean,
150, 90 minutes.
Right.
You know, 90 minutes on stage, 150,000. And so, you know, we said...
That's the kind of money Colin Powell and George Bush Sr. get.
Well, let's see. Oliver North, 40,000.
Gee whiz.
Yep.
I mean,
Joe.
it's unbelievable. These people have, you know what they've all done? Every one of them. They have sold our birthright for a bowl of Esau's soup. And that's the problem. You see, if you sell your own birthright for a bowl of soup, that's on you. But when you are an elected representative or you represent millions upon millions of people and you're willing to sell their birthright for your bowl of soup, ladies and gentlemen, that brings forth the T word.
You know, Mike, the discussion that we are having right now on broadcast radio is the very type of discussion that gets us thrown off broadcast radio.
Yeah, as of August 1st.
Well, is that going to be your first time?
It's my first outing, if you will, of off broadcast radio. Yes.
You've got a lot of catching up to do.
You know, these guys over here at the station I'm at, Mark Vale in particular, the manager of the station, and 107.1 The Point. These guys have never one time told me I can't say anything. Not one time. Mm-hmm. And I got to give them credit where it's due. They gave me an opportunity to come out here, and without any strings or any limits, they said, it's your show. Do what you want with it. And I guess ultimately now, this station's been sold, and the new owners are going to change to a music format of Christian music, and so we're going to go from declaring the realities to the world to, I guess, some kind of indoctrination. I don't get it, but whatever it is, more of the same. We need another music channel like we need to shoot ourselves in the kneecap 30 minutes before the marathon race. And, to me, this is what America needs, because talk radio is the only medium left where people can actually hear the truth. They can't read it in newspapers. They can't get it on television. They can't get it on cable. They can't get it on satellite. They can find it on the internet, but they got to do an enormous amount of homework and research to find it. And
well, I've got great news for you. Literally, I have been fired 5 times in 1 year. I think I hold the record for being fired the most number of times in the shortest period of time. And each time I've been fired, let go, thrown overboard, more stations pick us up. So you've got a great future ahead of you if you could just keep this up.
Well, here's how I'm looking at this. The old adage that God shuts one door and then opens another, or opens a window. And I'm looking at this like God shut one door and then gone around and kicked open every double barn door and every window and every side door and every hayloft door in the barn. And because you know what? This is forcing me to do a couple of things. One, to create a studio that I can, do what I need to do, where and when and how and under what circumstances. The second thing it's allowing me to do is work with you and Sam and other folks that we're going to create this video TV network that is going to stream radio hosts live. And they can't, and it will enable us to get the word out to more and more people. And then it will enable my audience to listen to you and be introduced to you or Sam or Joyce or somebody else. It'll allow your audience to be introduced to me and say, hey, this is a guy who's a truth teller. And I never knew he was there because I don't broadcast in their footprint or their market. We have guys that listen to our program every day from all over the country. I can see them log on to our website. They catch it streaming because there's no other way for them to get it. There's a fellow who lives in Texas who routinely, contacts me. There are people in Maine. There are people in Seattle. There's a guy in Seattle who posts something to our Facebook page every day. These are people who, how would they find us in Maine or Seattle or Miami or Chicago? It's amazing. And yet,
it's bigger than that. I'll tell you how it's bigger than that. One of our listeners, one of our instructors on our broadcast, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, went to Australia a couple of weeks ago to do a symposium, and one of our listeners went to that symposium because he was going to Australia, and this person lives in Australia. So what I'm saying is, it's bigger than just. Yeah, it's just bigger than the United States.
Well, the truth is, and here's and this wraps up the whole thing in a nutshell. Human nature wants and seeks out truth.
Absolutely.
And the real problem is that every outlet for truth is being shut down one outlet at a time. And they completely own the newspapers. They completely own the video. They own, in many cases, the radio. And the last vestige is talk radio and the internet. And they're working on the internet and talk radio. So,
Mike, let me share this with you. You're absolutely right. I was broadcasting in a station in Springfield, KWTO, and that's a pretty big station. It's 97 counties in Missouri. And the deal that I made with the station is I would pay X amount of dollars per hour to be on the air, and all I needed was a flat surface with an internet connection so I could plug in my computer.
right.
They gave me an office, an unused office. They said, here. And so I could go in and prepare, a couple hours before the broadcast. And I, worked with the lights off so they wouldn't say, hey, you're using electricity for the lights. I mean, I worked in the dark. My equipment was not running when,
You can't do that when we start streaming you on video,
Yeah. So what I mean is I try to have a real small footprint there,
Right.
really quiet and all that stuff. Okay. So the owner comes in after several months and he goes, I'm going to have to charge you for this office. And I said, okay, I understand. So after the broadcast, I packed my stuff up. That was the last they saw of me in the studio or in the office because I built my own studio from home and I started broadcasting from home. So what I'm saying is all of these little challenges are great because we get stronger.
Right.
And because of that, I was able to syndicate. I didn't have that 1.5 hour drive in and out and set up time. So I wasted 4 hours a day getting to the studio. Now I don't have to do that.
Right.
Now I can do things like this right here, broadcasting from my studio with you in your studio. So pretty soon we'll have a network of these studios and we'll have more people with us. So all of a sudden, Mike, there's you and me and Sam Bushman and Joyce Riley, and that's just for starters.
Sure. Well, I tell you what, and speaking of broadcast, I'm going to remind you that it's 5 minutes to the top of the hour, which means unless you plan on grabbing a cup of coffee on the run, you've got to go on in 5 minutes. But thank you for joining with us. And you're absolutely correct. And that is the goal. That's the drive. That's the motivation. We need to make sure that we are applying all of our pressure, all of our time, effort, money, energy to this cause. We need to restore liberty in the United States of America, and we need to restore integrity and honor and truth. And there's only one way to accomplish that, and that is to wake Americans up, even if it's just one at a time.
One last point. It does take money, and I don't want this to seem like a pitch, but it does take money. And the sad thing is that most sponsors will not sponsor a radio broadcast like this. Most sponsors, most businesses are scared to death of us.
Sure, we're polarizing.
Because of what we say. Mike, thanks so much for
Thank you,
having
man.
me on today.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing with our audience. Thank you so much.
By the way, one last thing. You're going to be on with me on July 30th,
Yes.
10 o'clock.
Yes.
So if you want to share that.
Outstanding. I'll put a link up there, too.
Thanks so much.
All right, man. Have a great day. Good luck on your show. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap for the day ourselves. I just want to remind you that we have a sponsor who has stepped up and agreed that they will match every pledge that we get between now and the first of the month. And so, if there is any way that you can help us in our one and only fundraising drive that we've ever done, this be it. So I know that many, many, many of you have contacted me already. A lot of you folks have stepped up to the plate and helped to donate with this match. I know a bunch of you have stepped up, and I'm very, very grateful. I don't have an actual count today, but I know that we're at about 20. It's around 2,700. And so I want to just thank those of you who have stepped up and participated. I want to make sure that if there's, I know we had a couple of problems. Some people were saying that they were trying to use that PayPal link and it was giving them grief. I'm not quite sure why. I am looking into it. If there's any way that you're running into trouble with that, you can still mail us a payment, and you can send that to us here at America's Voice Now, 10 Court Square. That's court like a courthouse. 10 Court Square, and that's in West Plains, Missouri, MO 65775. And if you need to, you can contact me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. You can jump on our website. There is a link there for PayPal. I've had other people say they had no trouble with it, so I'm not quite sure what the issue is. But you can visit America's Voice Now. There's a link there. You can just click on it. It will allow you to go straight to PayPal. You can just put in the amount that you want to donate, and it will send us a notification that we've received it, and you'll get a confirmation as well. I want to thank those of you who have stepped up and courageously and generously supported us over time. And I can't thank you enough. This is a mission for us, and we're determined to make it happen. Please find us at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. Whether you have a Facebook page or not, you can still link and read those stories, read our articles. You can't comment, but you can still see and utilize all that information. And then you can catch this and every other broadcast that we do at YouTube at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow morning.